I want to say thank you for inviting me. It's a privilege to be at the legendary Atlanta user group. If not the first one, is certainly one of the first I remember starting up, and I love seeing what you do, and just having the opportunity to be here is it's really great. So with that, I just wanted to kind of touch a little bit today, to spend the next 20, 30 minutes talking a little bit about Visual Social Good, what it is, or what are we trying to do. And I'll also give you a kind of sneak peek in terms of what myself and the rest of the team around Visual Social Good are looking into 2021 and beyond, and kind of where do we see the initiative going. So as I've mentioned, we'll talk through some of the things that we've done. I want to kind of share some highlights of visualizations that were also interesting for me as I saw the progress of Visual Social Good. And as I've mentioned, we'll talk about the future in a second too. So where does this start? For those that are within the Tableau community for a long time, they will probably remember Chloe Tseng. She was at Twitter at the time, and she presented at Fanalytics at the conference. Remember those? So finally, this was this opportunity for people to share ideas that maybe just didn't fit with most of the other things that would be done within the community. So she presented in 2016, and the idea was really simple. We have a lot of people creating visualizations. Of course, we have Iron Viz, we have other initiatives, but there is a lack for harnessing some of those skills to support organizations that are for impact or NGOs and charities. Of course, Data for Good in 2020, 2021 is a lot more widely known. 5 years ago, that wasn't the case. So that was kind of the original idea. And in 2017, what was set up is very simple, was one first community project focusing on women in data with Stanford University around January, and then a small website and a URL. And throughout that year, Chloe was able on her own to create a number of projects that touch in various areas, from working with UNICEF in terms of childcare and making sure that children get access to clean water and things like that in some countries in Africa, as well as I've mentioned Data for Good around women in data with Stanford University. So as she launched those 10 projects throughout that kind of first year, she felt like there was momentum behind the initiative, and specifically a linked Tableau community that we all kind of cherish across the user groups and all the things that we do. So the website it's kind of simple, and one thing that I can tell you is that we're currently redesigning some of this. And there are, if you're unfamiliar with that, I'll talk you through the whole process, both for if you want to become a volunteer, which I hope you do by the time that we finish today, but also if you know of a NGO or a charity that could use some support from us, I'll also love to hear from you. So how does it work? Usually a nonprofit launches a data visualization project. What does that actually mean? So there's usually a few weeks or months that go into this, where we work with them to try to understand the gaps that they may need, or that they have, or maybe they are trying to show a little bit better the type of impact that they are having in the area that they're working on. I'll give you a couple of examples. So we worked recently with an NGO which is called Bridges for Prosperity. And what they are really focused is creating connections within communities where bridges are lacking. And that could be either just normal walking bridges, or it could be that trying to link across a river for traffic for farmers and things like that. And we know that sometimes when a road gets cut, it's difficult for us to then get access to a different community, and maybe we have to go around a large area. It's much easier if there was a bridge. So that's kind of some of the projects that they're working on. And as we know, NGOs and charities or for-profit or not-for-profit organizations, one of the things that always happens is that they are typically underfunded and also under-resourced. So having volunteers within the community that are willing to grab that data, visualize it, and create something that can help them, it really helps them furthering their mission. And then the way that we do that in terms of volunteers, of course, 2020, 2021, has really been about the virtual events, which of course gives us the opportunity to share more of the work that we're doing with people like you, or just running hackathons virtually. But we also have been working with a number of local chapters, which I'll touch about in a second. The image that you have here is from a hackathon that we run in London, I think in 2019. And then the impact that it has, as I mentioned, there are different ways that an NGO might look at getting some of that support. It could be, for instance, creating a poster, an infographic that goes onto the website or gets printed out and distributed throughout schools. Could also be, for instance, for an organization here in London, they actually didn't need a specific visualization. What they needed was the data was so vast around childhood obesity that they just wanted a lot of analysts and a lot of hands trying to see if they could see some correlation between the different um, causes. For instance, if there were specific types of shops near a school, if the family had certain means, and how does some of that kind of social strata impacts childhood obesity. So those are kind of some of the things that we've been working with, and some of the ways that organizations can get involved. So in the last 4 years, we've had over 30 projects, and we have around 4,500 volunteers. What I mean by that is that we don't get 4,500 visualizations every time that we launch a project, but these are the volunteers that sign up with us. And we usually get in the region of 50 to 80 visualizations created, depending on the topic um, of the NGO that gets launched. And then we have project locations. So we are missing LATAM, but for the most part, we have worked with organizations that are global, and I'll show you that in the next slide. But also we're focusing really small charities, organizations that don't have the reach of a UNICEF or WHO, for instance. And then our local chapters, they are without a doubt one of the biggest part of our success. What they do for us is that they are able to identify causes in some local communities. They are also the ones organizing local events. And I can give you some of the chapters that we feel that are really active. For instance, Tokyo, Osaka, Amsterdam, London, Boston, and San Diego. There are a number of those chapters that are run by volunteers, again, to help us further the mission of Viz for Social Good. And then, as I was mentioning, we have worked with a number of organizations. Of course, UNICEF stands out, but I also want to kind of call out a few others that for me are important. A really small one on the right-hand side, Kevin Richardson Foundation. That foundation is all about creating the habitat for wild lions in South Africa. As you know, that has been reduced a lot in the last 4 decades. So the foundation is now purchasing land to make sure that there is habitat for lions. And then Sunny Street looks at supporting people that don't have a home and homeless, that they need support, medical support specifically. And it's run by 2 nurses out in Brisbane, Australia. So as you can see, it's not only about these kind of global projects, but also focusing on sometimes really key causes that are local to specific organization. And as I've mentioned, we couldn't do this without our local chapters. This is just a quick compilation of all the meetings that they have been running in hackathons. Can see a few from London and again in India or in the United States as well. And it's been really fantastic to kind of have them continue to supporting the events. Even as we all went virtual, they continue to run these events locally, and it's fantastic to see. So a big thank you to them. And then a couple of, maybe a little bit kind of the way that we've been promoting Visual Social Good. So Tableau has been really kind to us in that we've been having a presence at the Tableau conference since 2017, both in Europe and in the US. Of course, we don't take up the big stage, but you can always find us talking about Visual Social Good every time there is a Tableau conference. We've also taken part in the Data XNI conference, and this was 2019. We had Vanita from our side being able to kind of speak there and share a little bit about the work that we've been doing. And this is kind of the bragging slide. We are incredibly proud of having been awarded the Community Silver Prize for the Information is Beautiful Awards back in 2017, and also being one of the finalists for the Fast Company's World Changing Ideas in 2018. And we have been invited to speak at the United Nations General Assembly. The important thing on this last one was that while it was great that we got invited, we got a chance to bring our volunteers that had submitted their visualizations, and they were the ones presenting their work to the United Nations General Assembly. So that was fantastic, and I thought it was really, really cool to be able to provide that for them. So as you can imagine, as we grow and there's a number of initiatives running, and we're trying to kind of support not only the global initiatives, but as well the local ones, and connect with all those local chapters, we had to put some structure because, of course, Chloe couldn't run everything on her own. And what we've been doing is kind of focusing a little bit in terms of creating some more divided areas so that we can all kind of contribute to it. And this is what our group looks like at the moment. So as you can see from the top left-hand corner, you have Chloe, Neil Richards. I'm sure most of you on the Tableau community will recognize him. He's been supporting Visual Social Good for many, many years in terms of being not only an advocate and an evangelist for us, but also recently as our community lead. My role as a partnership lead is really to focus on connecting with organizations that are either running hackathons internally in their companies, and we have a few of those that we're starting, or creating partnerships that allow us to further the mission that we're doing within Visual Social Good. And then, of course, we have Amanda and Nisa that have been supporting us as well, and Vanita also focus on the operational side of the work that we do. I won't mention everyone, but they have been key to our success, and they continue to be key to our success in terms of helping us work through the marketing side of things. We also, I think I'm missing here, we have Mindy, our lawyer. She's supporting us a lot in our next initiative for 2021, which I'll mention in a second. So before we go into that, I just wanted to share with you some of the highlights of work that our volunteers have submitted. So here's an example, and this was for African Youth, the Mentorship Network, and essentially focuses on the impact that it may have in a child, the fact that they don't have a father, and what does that look like for those children in an African country. And then this one is also focused in Africa, but it was looking at the impact or the disparity that happens in terms of Uganda's women's population and their representation or lack thereof in the parliamentary. So you can see here on the left-hand side, they make up just above 50%, and they only 1 in 4 members of the parliament is a woman, which is something that definitely has to change, not only Uganda, but I think across many governments. This one was to do with UNICEF and kind of focusing on childhood and immigration, and kind of the impact that immigration has for people that have to run away from conflict. This is focused on charity that is helping homeless people in the UK. And what it's looking at is the areas that most people are homeless. So London, of course, with a bigger population, has a lot of rough sleepers, and there's a number of initiatives about trying to support there. This one from Jess Walker, again, focuses on gender inequality. And if you have seen some of the conference that happened for Tableau early this year, this was one of the visualizations that was picked. It was also a Viz of the Day, and it was also one of those that were in the Tableau public gallery that you could kind of navigate through, even though we were all sitting at home. Moving towards a few other ideas that were submitted by our volunteers. This one is, I mentioned earlier, a project that we did with obesity in UK. This one had a lot of data to work through, but Liliana did a really great job on kind of communicating some of the causes and effects. And it's one that if you get a chance, go into Tableau Public and interact with that. This one focused on that foundation that I've mentioned in terms of purchasing habitat for lions out in South Africa, the Gavin Richardson Foundation. And this one again is from that same UK homelessness. That is one of the charities, I believe, Papa Biden, that we've worked well in the past. Again, one from Obesity England. This one is from Neil Richards. So if you know Neil, you know that he often creates visualizations that are very artistic. His latest one around flowers and the Premier League in UK. And this was his take on looking at the obesity kind of shape in different kind of counties within London, which was the area that was focused for this charity. This was from Sam Parsons, again, a really great visualization, one of his first visualizations that I think for Visual Social Good when he was just starting out, and it was fantastic to see what he was able to come up with. I was just going to move through, I think I have a couple more to show you. This one was one of the first visualizations that I saw for Visual Social Good, and it was created for a Hidden Genius project. And what it focused on was to try and create the opportunity for people from backgrounds that are or people of color, or that they don't have the right support in terms of household incomes and things like that, but they be able to get into a university and take a STEM subject, because of course that impacts their career and their ability in terms of social mobility and things like that. So it was really, Michael Mixon was the creator of this one, and I think it was one of the best visualizations that I saw at the time. And then finally, talking a little bit about tech, this focuses again on gender and ethnic disparities across tech companies, and is really interesting take on that data and seeing how you can see the how to read on the left hand side there. You can see that pretty much, even just kind of a glance, you can tell that even though some companies are moving in the right direction, I don't think any company has a good distribution across genders and specifically race. So I think that's something that we can all kind of agree in terms of improving. So what does that look like? We've done all of these things up until now, and we have a really great team working with us. We love working with our chapter leads as well. But the future is bright for us. We believe that we can continue to grow Visual Social Good. We are passionate to make this not only a community initiative, but we want to make sure that we can continue to partner with others and create an opportunity for other NGOs to collaborate with us. That's why we are currently in the process of working through an application for a non-profit status, which will allow us to, as I said, probably look at things like connecting with other companies, be able to engage with NGOs that potentially it's a little bit more difficult to do today, and create those partnerships that allow us to support them. So that's some of the things that we're working on. What does that actually mean for you? So we are always looking for volunteers. So you can go into visualsocialgood.com, sign up as a volunteer. We'll promise we won't send you 1,000 of emails. What we'll do is once a month, we'll send you an email to tell you when one project has been launched, and you can choose to engage because it may mean something to you, or you feel passionate about it, or you can just skip that month and don't join and don't visualize anything there. We also, of course, have our Twitter presence. I would love to see when you share those visualizations. And then what we would love to do is to, every time that there's, particularly now that we're all virtual, is every time that we close a project, we do kind of recap on on a Zoom call, and usually the charity gets to pick the maybe 2 to 3 favorite visualizations, and would love to be able to showcase those as well. So that's it. It's really simple. If you want to sign up, we're always looking forward to more volunteers. If you want to follow Visual Social Good, we are on Twitter. And if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer those.
Thank you so much, David. That was awesome.
Thank you.
There were a lot of comments and there were a few questions in the chat, but I think Doc helped answer one about starting up local chapters, if anyone were to be interested to like start up a chapter from scratch, it looks like you can go to the website and there's some instructions out there.
Yeah, and you can always reach out to us directly. So if you want to just post on Twitter and just tag us, we'll be able to get into contact with you, and would love to set up that